gonna lie to you, I'm still getting used to not seeing you for a week. Like
I know, man.
Again, it feels like the whole football weekend, and lots of life things have happened, and work stuff is going on, and then all of a sudden I'm like, damn, I haven't seen Bernie in forever. So I'm glad that we are still. I'm glad that our show is a weekly show.
Yeah,
so that we can still get together and bitch. I mean, so we can still get together and.
Yeah,
but man, we had a really great session there for about 10 minutes before you.
Yeah, I know. Once again, before we came up. By the way, I think it's like this weird circle of life thing that you work with Nate Ross.
Yeah,
considering I worked with Nate Ross back in 2000, completely different world, but the fact that we actually both have worked with the same guy, and I work, that's really bizarre.
He's still caddying. He carried.
Is he really?
He carried 2 bags. I mean. I don't want to give up his age, but yes, he carried 2 bags because out at the ocean course at Kiowa, you get basically the recommended.
You're a 4-cat. You're not carrying bags.
You have to pay. When you play there are no golf carts. Yeah, you have to have a caddy.
Where at the ocean course? Did they change that? Because it's 3/4. You sure it's the ocean course? Because it's 3/4 of a mile from 9 green to 10 tee. They had to play with carts. There's no walking. Caddy. Yeah, you have to have a 4-caddy, but you can't walk the course. It's too long. So you ride on the carts with them, and you usually go with a foursome. No, you got to walk it. I'm telling you, and that's changed because when I worked there in 2000. So
yeah, I know for certain. I know for certain. That they do have
because they must take everyone from 9 to 10 because it's literally almost a mile.
I don't know. I played it twice. I can't remember. Anyway, at his age, he's carrying 2 bags.
Did you walk it?
Walking.
Because they did walking used to be completely illegal there. They wouldn't allow it.
Yeah.
When I caddied there. That's crazy. That's a long way. That's a long way.
Yeah. No, so he carries 2 bags. I mean,
that's crazy.
But crazy. and then he makes $100 a bag plus tip. And so, most of these guys will tip another $50 or a lot more on top of it. But yeah, he's still caddying out there.
So they don't pay him by the hour anymore. Like we used to get hourly, and then we'd get tips.
Yeah, I think they get. Isn't it a small? Don't you get like $3 or $4?
No, back then it was $7 an hour. This is back in 2000, so it was like $7 an hour, which is nothing. But then you work on your tips.
Yeah,
it was. I mean, we still made pretty good money, and if you did 2 loops a day, you could make pretty good money.
Yeah,
but for what it was. But
yeah, so he's still doing that and then doing the broadcast. So yeah,
that's crazy. He's still doing it.
No, so you and I had a very spirited conversation that we are still trying to decide if we're going to get into on the show, which has to do with the sport of cornhole, obviously, and what is inside the bags and what is allowed, what is not allowed, the material that's used. So I'm not in the mood to do it right now, but a lot of questions on what's inside the bag, what changes are or are not being made. I've got some thoughts on that. So I don't know. That was kind of a fun conversation. So
I thought it was great.
Let's table that for.
It's tough to table. All I'll say is about the conversation. My stance is if you give an inch, they'll take a mile.
Yeah. All right. So for those of us who listen for other sports, let us just geek out on cornhole. Cornhole bags, by the way, are not made of corn. Believe it or not, I still run into people who are like, I didn't realize there wasn't corn in there. Nope, it's not corn.
Yeah.
So this synthetic fill that is on the inside, there's different types of fill. You can have like a round fill, you can have a poly fill, you can have all kinds of different fills. So, there are certain bags, so there's materials that are approved. There are bags that are approved before the season starts. Your bag has to be approved and stamped by the ACL to be able to play. And so, we've all heard different rumors of, different things that are inside the bag. And so, I just had a conversation with Stacy about it. And I'm like, I think it'd be kind of cool if maybe instead of stamping bags and approving bags, what happens if we approve materials and approve fill? And as the season goes along, allow the bag manufacturers to tweak that, just like they do. And like I use the analogy of golf and the analogy of NASCAR, how they tweak their equipment throughout the year just to gain a little bit of an advantage. So if you want to use a blend of 70% of one fill and 30% of another fill, because you find that during the season that's more comfortable for you, as long as the materials you were using and the fill inside is all approved. Maybe they'd give you a little creative, freedom to maybe try and find a leg up on the competition. But I get your point. When you do something like that, maybe it's opening up a huge can of worms that is just impossible at this point anyway, without the technology in place to be able to patrol. Because if you're ever called out on it, it needs to be checked. And of course, we can't start just taking a knife and ripping open bags and checking what's inside. NASCAR just so happens to have all the technology that after, the winner of each race, if Denny Hamlin wins a race, they check the car. Whoever the winner is, they check the car. And I realize that's tough to do. But anyway, it's
interesting.
I didn't mean to start a firestorm or anything.
No. I think it's interesting because you have to have, I think the fact that we have 30 bag manufacturers approved, I think hurts the sport. And I know people will disagree, but it hurts the sport. It makes the sport look simple and backyardy. I mean, when you look at other sports, people are like, well, there's all kinds of golf balls. No, there's only 7 manufacturers. They have different brands within themselves, but there's only 7. Football has 1. Basketball, depending on, it's not all of these things because it makes it more centralized. It makes it easier to control, and it makes it seem like it's real, like it's professional, not just any mom and pop kind of thing. And I know that upsets people, especially, the cornhole community is completely against what I just said, but I don't think they get how it impacts sponsorships, how it impacts the game on a much larger, macro level. But once you start doing that, I just think it opens it up. And look, no offense to bag manufacturers, the people that make these things, but if you start letting them do things, they will go too far and they will cheat. And I'm not saying, and for them, if I'm upsetting someone, sorry, but you would.
There has to be some sort of checks and balances. I get it, but I do like the thought of, as long as the fill is approved and as long as the materials are approved, and
don't they do that though? Don't they kind of do that already? Didn't Fire do that with Jamie and Matt trying to find the bag that they liked?
They may have, Bernie. I don't know. My thought of it was always, and again, I'm an outsider on a lot of this. I mean, yes, I can talk the game and I can broadcast it. I know all the players. We know the stats, that kind of stuff. When it comes to this type of minutia, I'm not really in those conversations, as you well know. So, in my outside opinion, I think a bag that somebody starts with at the beginning of the season, I don't think you can change that much throughout the year, can you?
I don't think you can change that bag, but you can maybe go to another, because usually a manufacturer is
approved bag.
Yeah, they're going to have all kinds of different, which have what you're talking about, which have different fills, which have a fabric tweak. I mean, so I don't know. I think it's already being done, but done in that way. Now I see what you're saying, and not to beat a dead horse, but we talked about this as analogous to golf. If you're going and buying some TaylorMades at Golf Galaxy or online or whatever, it's not the same club that the pro you're watching is playing. It might have the same letters on there. It's not the same club. Yeah. They've got that thing tweaked. I mean, once again, within specifications made by the PGA Tour, but they've got that thing tweaked in a way that's very different from what you can buy at home. And maybe that's what, I see what you're saying. As long as it's within some sort of specification. It's just,
I mean, if all of a sudden if all of a sudden an ultra player, like a Zasowetz brother, right? All of a sudden was like, hey, you know what? I think I want a little bit of this from this Viper, but I want a little bit of this from this, Widow or whatever. Maybe we can try that. And all of a sudden, he loves it, right? It's great. Right. This is great. Right. And so that's given Mark kind of that creative licensing and maybe a little bit competitive advantage to be able to tweak it. I don't know. Again, I'm just throwing it out there. I'm sure there are a million reasons why not to do that, but I don't know. Maybe not. I mean, sometimes it's good to think outside the box.
I think the word tweak and cheat can get very close.
Maybe so. Yeah.
You know what I mean? So it's tough. I mean, I like what you're saying. I think it's a really good idea. I just don't like, how do you stop it?
I don't know.
Because sooner or later, people are going to say, hey, there's something wrong with that bag. That bag's doing some things that it shouldn't be able to do. Yeah, I don't know.
I mean, we are. I will say that I know behind the scenes we are getting to the point where the technology is starting to catch up with the game as far as the specs of the bag not just the shape and size and not just the weight, but what's inside. I mean, I know we are getting to that point where we are going to have, the capability to analyze post-match bags to make sure that they meet all the specs. I mean, I don't know how close that is, but the technology is catching up fast. So I don't know. It might be kind of
interesting. I don't know. It's interesting. And then, then the manufacturers, what are they doing? Are they on site like golf club manufacturers are? I don't know if you've ever been to a PGA Tour event. You go behind the scenes, all the trucks are there, from Titleist, TaylorMade, Ping. Yeah. They're all there, and they are doing clubs on site, tweaking them for the pros on site between rounds. I mean, it's crazy. Yeah. So maybe do the manufacturers start doing that, right? Like bring some sort of portable little shop, and who knows what's going on in that shop out in the parking lot.
Well, I just like it. Again, I know NASCAR is not apples to apples, but throughout the week, depending on where they are racing, they will make changes to their car. Just little. Again, all the parts have to be approved. The general size and shape and aerodynamics of the car has to be approved. But if we're going to Talladega this week, we know what little changes have to be made to try and get us to 191.5 around the corner instead of 191. I mean, they make these little changes. So if we know that we're going to be playing outside, next week, and we're going, everyone knows we're going to Summerfest in Milwaukee. We're going to be playing outside. Hey, give me that 80-20 blend, bag that we dealt with, and they make I don't know.
But don't you think they're already doing that though? They're already doing that with their different,
if they were, I mean, like I said, Stacy and I had a chance to talk about this a little bit. If they were doing that, I'm sure he would have said to me, Jeff, they're already doing that.
I mean, but I've talked to players that have 4 different bags. I've talked to players that have 4 different bags for conditions when they come to a tournament.
And they obviously
but that's
all have
kind of the same thing you're talking
fill.
about, though, isn't it? Isn't that kind of the same thing?
Yes, to a point, but I'm not sure how much they're blending the fills. Like a Wizard will have a certain fill in it, right?
I hear you.
And the Witcher has a different fill in it. Are there bags that have blends of those fills? I don't think so, but I don't know. I'd have to. I can call Rich and ask him. Or I can call Mark. I'll call you whoever, Jason, whoever.
I don't know. I think it's interesting. The word tweak to me scares me when it comes to some of those guys.
Well, and I shouldn't say tweak. In NASCAR, they make changes, they make adjustments. So whatever you want to call it.
Sure. And they get caught.
Tweaking gets a little shady.
And look, in NASCAR, they get caught all the time. It's not unusual in a season. Maybe 2 or 3 guys get caught.
Yeah.
For an over tweak, an over adjustment, an adjustment that's a step outside the rules. That's the only thing I worry about, because then we spend, then all of a sudden ACL staff is going to spend an inordinate amount of time policing.
Yep.
And then does that help the sport? I don't know.
These are all good problems to have, right? I mean, it means the sport is growing. It means there's more attention on it. It means the stakes are higher.
You ain't cheating. You ain't trying, Jeff.
I mean, it happens with every sport. So I think sometimes, on a serious note, and when I'm talking to players, I feel like the conversation always turns to this. Like, we get so in the weeds on some of this stuff, right? And then all of a sudden we'll just smile and we're like, wait a second. I mean, this sport's only like what? I mean, at the pro level, this sport's only what, 6-7 years old?
Right.
I mean, basically what, 16, 17 is kind of the official start of the modern era, if
you will. Yeah.
So, I mean, it's such a young sport. And these are going to be discussions and growing pains that this sport has. The bigger and larger and more popular it gets. So it's all good conversations to have.
But that's what our show's for, right?
Yeah, I'm glad we talked about it.
Yeah, to throw these kind of conversations around.
Yeah,
and usually, believe it or not, sometimes I actually agree with you, but I'm a devil's advocate guy. If you've got an opinion, and this, by the way, is why I'm single, why I have been single for most of my life. If you've got an opinion, back it up. I don't believe in just having an opinion for the opinion's sake.
Right.
You better have something behind it, or I'm just void, not valid opinion stamp. Yeah. Like, you got to be able to back it up. And
I'm the same way.
Even though I might agree with you actually, but I'm going to make you, because I'm a jerk, I guess.
Well, I think there's a difference too. Like, I always like to kind of go back to some business analogies. I think there's a difference between a devil's advocate guy and a no guy. Like the guy who I dislike the most to work with in a company, and I have in the past, is a no guy. no matter what you say or ideas that you have or things you want to change or tweak. No is the answer. No, can't do that. We can't do that. And I think I've mentioned this before on the show. That is something that I love. One of Trey Ryder's biggest qualities that I love the most in business. I mean, this has nothing to do with our friendship. Is he's never a no guy. Anytime I've said something in the meetings that we've been in, it's never no. It's always, I mean, at the worst, it's probably a let me think about that for a minute.
Yeah.
You know, it's never the person you don't like to work with is the guy when you throw out a new idea says, no, we can't do that. We can't do that. And you know who this person is. There's a difference between that guy and devil's advocate. It's good to have devil's advocate. If you don't have devil's advocate, then what happens? Penn State football.
Right? Hey, man. I'm no Penn State fan, but what's going on with that? Where'd that shot come
no
from?
Checks and balances whatsoever, right? Over Joe Paterno. Remember the whole thing? Yeah, because how many people witnessed something going on and nobody said a word? You need to have a devil's advocate guy. You need to have someone there, and that's the danger of businesses.
Explain to me why that 10-year-old's going with you to the shower.
Yeah, I mean that was
walk me through that.
That was and it's not to the Penn State
funny,
people,
but yeah,
and to the Penn State fans out there, I don't mean to throw you under the bus. It's just what came. It's not just Penn State. It happens. No. It happens everywhere. One of the business thing, real quick. You were talking about the brands, right? And you're right. In golf, there's Callaway, Titleist, TaylorMade, but you basically have your staple, right? Your 5, 6, 7 brands that everyone knows, and it's good for the sport and it's good for business. Back when I was in pharmaceutical sales, how many antidepressants are on the market? 1 million, right?
Right.
But really, I mean, that's why Lexapro did so good when I just happened to luck out. The company I worked for, we promoted Lexapro, and that was their business model. We are going out there and we're going to dominate the marketing of this product. And we don't want to be one of 40. We want to be one of 4 or 5. So anytime we're talking about some of the other products, you know, we would mention basically 4 or 5 products because it's better for business. It makes it easier to market when you have just one product that you're marketing. It's so much easier. Yep. So, you know, and it makes it more fruitful financially for everybody. You're right. I mean, if there's 40 different bags, no one's going to win. Yeah. If there's 5, 6, or 7, like in golf, you guys are going to kill it. Y'all are going to kill it.
Yep. And I mean, and I think we're starting to see that now. I think that we do have way too many bag manufacturers that are okayed, you know, that are allowed to stamp bags in the ACL. However, there is a certain few that have kind of stepped up and obviously are the big dogs in the room, right? And I think the competition level between those is working because once upon a time, there was one really big one and a few that were trying to get to that point. Now that one really big one's kind of taking a back seat and is kind of having to reevaluate how they operate and how they do things because they've been surpassed. And I think that's good in a way. You have to understand, hey, we're competing. Like this is competition now. Now some of the small people would say, well, what about us? Why don't we get to compete? Well, I think you have, right? And it's just, it doesn't help anybody but you, right? It doesn't help the league. It doesn't help. I don't know. I'm with you. It's hard to explain to someone that's trying to make a business out of it. And I get it. They want to be ultra, right? They want to be BG, and I get it. But man, that's hard. It's hard to do. Now, can it be done? Sure, but but it doesn't make the sport look good. And I don't think they see that way. I think they see the opposite side. Oh, anyone can play, anyone can win. Blah, blah, blah. Like, yeah, I hear you, but. You know, it's from a business perspective that doesn't really work the way that you think it does. But, you know, whatever.
Man, we are 19 and a half minutes in.
And we haven't discussed
cornhole the entire time.
How do you feel about that? Are you okay with that?
What in the world are we doing? You know, I actually really like it.
Do you?
Contrary to popular belief, I actually do really like
it. Hey, man, are we going to start making – I think you look good in the coat and tie when you're commentating. Should we start doing that again for you guys?
Did you watch? Did you actually watch our game?
I saw your post that you had before you guys went on. I think that looks good. It's a clean look. I know Trey would disagree with me 100% on this, but I think
for football, it's fine. I still like my favorite look is, and I've told Trey this, my favorite look is the jacket and either jacket and a nice T-shirt or jacket and a polo shirt. That's my favorite look on. And I think our sport really kind of calls. I don't think our sport is a coat and tie sport. I don't.
It's not. But I mean, yeah.
I wouldn't mind if they did in football either. If they just went to a jacket and a polo. Yeah, I'd love that in football too. I think it's good to dress up a little bit. Kind of to your point, I think it adds kind of a professionalism. I like it.
I think it. I think it helps, and like our sport isn't that, but I think it would help a little bit to give it that. Like when you, you know what I'm saying.
I love what Anthony and I wore for the shootouts. I mean, I thought the jacket and polo, or jacket and button down, or jacket and nice T-shirt, and
I'm against the T-shirt thing. I'm 100% against it.
What? No, I'm
against it.
A nice dress.
I know what you're saying. I know what you're saying. I'm against it. You got to give me a collar if you're wearing a jacket. Just my opinion.
I don't hate it. Hey, I never wore a T-shirt. I always, as you know, I always wore a jacket this year with a polo underneath it, with like a golf unbranded polo underneath.
I think there's some sort of rule on that too, somewhere, some sort of etiquette rule on that. But
I think if we did, and again, I mean, no one ever listens to me on this stuff, but if I think if we did like a black jacket with a really cool black ACL T-shirt underneath it and some black jeans, I think that would look terrific. I mean, that's kind of like what they on the NFL pregame shows and on the NFL, the weekly shows. NFL
it's all getting that way. I mean,
I really like that look. But
what happened to when men wore suits? Like, if you ever go back,
I do in football.
No, but if you ever look back in the day when it didn't matter what job you had, you were wearing a tie as a guy. Look, I'm glad we're not doing that all the time, but I think we've gone too far to the other end, where people that were supposed to be respecting as professionals are rocking T-shirts. And I don't know, man. I'm wrong on this. I'm aware I'm wrong on this. I'm not trying to be the old guy, get out of my yard kind of thing. But I just, I don't know. I know what you're talking about. I've seen the shows, and they're just sitting there rocking a T-shirt and a jacket. And the only reason they're wearing that jacket is because someone said, we've got to try to make this look respectable, right?
And halfway through the show, it comes off.
Yeah, and it's just like, oh, God. Otherwise, let's not do that stuff.
Yeah, that's why I really like and to be honest with you, I like, and we might be changing this next year, I like the jacket and polo look with the jeans better than just the polo. Like the polo khakis look, ugh, that is so like 90s to me. I like, and we did it this year with the ACL polo, and I do like the black ACL polo, and they give us freedom, to at least wear like nice jeans instead of having to wear khakis. But yes, totally fine with that. I still though like the jacket and polo look better. I think it's a hip. I think it's a current, contemporary, professional look that is good for our sport. I think it just looks good.
By the way, folks at home, that's how you kill 7 minutes. just literally chop it up and destroy 7 minutes right there. Just done.
I had the funny thing is I had so much football stuff that I wanted to talk about.
We're talking about it. I just wanted to.
No. We're not going to have time.
That was on purpose. That's my fault. I wanted to see if I could literally destroy 7 minutes.
You can. You do it all the time. Which is why you're a great podcast guy. All right. Before we get on to it's impossible to switch over to football now. All right. By the way,
no, never.
Never. We used to do a segment, and still do every once in a while, called Meet Jeff and Bernie. Mm-hmm. We started doing it early in the show. It got super deep. We got in trouble with our families. Kind of had to next meet Jeff and Bernie.
Yeah.
Kind of had to get rid of Jeff and Bernie. But apparently you want to bring it back today because you're feeling feisty.
No. My question to you is, I respect you immensely for what you are as a professional, and I've seen your work. No. I've seen your work, and I don't see a difference between you and what we would call maybe the elites in the business. I don't see that difference. I don't hear a difference. I don't see a difference. And I'm wondering if you ever made a conscious decision not to push all the way to get to, say, big, like CBS, ABC, big time, broadcasting, or if something political happened along the way and you felt like there was a wall that you just couldn't get through. I was just curious because I don't see a difference. I don't hear a difference. I don't see a difference in what you do compared to a Dan Schulman at ESPN that gets all these top basketball. You know what I'm saying? Like, was it because they went to Syracuse and everybody that works at ESPN went to Syracuse and there's a wall you just can't get through? Or was it like, well, to do that, I'm going to have to give up so much of myself. I don't think I can do that. I was just curious.
I would say it's a great question. And I appreciate what you said. And I actually get this.
Julie's work phone. Anybody want to answer that? She's not here.
Get that? Hey, it could be CBS telling me they need it this weekend.
That's Julie's work phone. She's not here. So that's going off TV.
Yay, live recording on podcast.
Yeah.
It happens. Yeah, I mean, I get this question actually more than you probably think. I'd say a little bit of both. I mean, I was super hungry when I was younger and into my 30s, and then I had kids, and it kind of made me evaluate, how much I want to travel, but I was always still hungry and would have still taken that job. I did have a couple of opportunities that just didn't get, like the Cincinnati Reds job that I finished runner-up for. Just didn't get it. But yeah, I mean, I've gotten to a point in my life, it's going to sound really sad, but I've gotten a point in my life now where I don't want to say I've given up, but I'm, I feel like it's such a hurdle that I can't get over now. For many, many reasons that if it happens, I will be extremely excited, and I feel like it will be somewhat of a relief, and I feel like I'm deserving of an NFL job or of a high major, network job with SEC network, ACC, whatever. But for some reason, it just hasn't been in the cards for me. I don't know why. It's not that I haven't tried. I mean, there was a turning point in my career. I'll tell you, I reached out to an agent in New York. This is probably, I don't know, 6 or 7 years ago, and he listened to my stuff, and he called me and he said, "Listen," he said, "I think you're great." He said, I love your look, I love your voice. He said, "But I've got 10 of you. I've got 10 Jeffs, and I can't possibly take on another because it wouldn't be ethical on my part." And to me, again, that was like, maybe 6 or 7 years ago. To me, that was a turning point where I'm like, well, okay, now I've got to start and figure out a way to make some money, because in this job, you don't. Contrary to popular belief, I think people think that sportscasters make a lot of money. If you're Jim Nantz and Joe Buck, you make a lot of money. If you are Jeff McCarriger doing Sunbelt football and cornhole, you need to find something else to do. It's a fun job, and I appreciate doing it and having the opportunity. It's not paying for your kids' college. So that's why I do. That's why I do real estate. So I don't know. Curious. So I guess to answer your question, it's a little bit of life, but it's a lot of opportunity. And for some reason, I just haven't had that.
Because I've heard, I have another friend that's fairly deep in that world, and they've talked about some of the political, like with ESPN, Syracuse is a big deal. If you go up there, the amount of Syracuse guys, it's unbelievable, right? For sure. And which is funny. I never really thought of Syracuse as the greatest communication school on earth, but apparently for broadcast communications, you're not going to get better because you got New York. It's right there. New York's right there. So, it's the three. But he told me, and he kind of works more on the production camera side, but he was like, man, it's so political once you get to a certain spot. And maybe that's kind of what that agent said, that, there are so many guys that have that same kind of look and voice, and it all kind of works, that you kind of have to either know someone that's doing you a favor, or you've got to come from this. He was like, it's so political when you get to a certain point. That makes sense. And I was just curious if you ran into that at all, like if you ran into that wall, and maybe that kind of answered my question, because I don't hear a difference. I don't see a difference. I don't hear a difference from what you do from what anyone else does when I'm watching a game, because now because of our especially my behind the scenes view of everything now at television, I kind of know what's going on when I'm watching a game, right? I know what those announcers are going through, so I don't hear a difference. I don't see a difference. I don't hear a difference.
Well, I appreciate that.
And so I was just curious, like, why is it my man Jeff, doing the game of the week on ESPN when North Carolina's playing Duke? Why is it Dan Schulman all the time?
Well, the ones that get me the most are, and it's going to happen to me again, not this weekend, but next weekend. Next weekend, Coastal Carolina will be on big ESPN against Georgia State, and they're bringing down their guys from Bristol.
You're not getting that? Like, see, that's ridiculous to me. Because there's no way.
So in the back of my mind, I'm always like, okay, so I'm on ESPN with Trey most weekends, or ESPN2 on most weekends during the summer, but yet I live 90 minutes from the campus of Coastal Carolina. So now some of that now in ESPN's defense, I will tell you that there are certain broadcasters, announcers that are on a contract. This is what I've been told. That in their contract, they will do a lot of studio work, but in their contract, they do get 10, 15, 20 events a year where they do play-by-play. And so to fulfill that contract, a lot of times they will send
a Matt Berry. Are you talking about someone like a Matt Berry?
Somebody like that they'll send. And I think Matt has done a Coastal game before. They'll send somebody like that down to because it's part of his contract. He wants to do a little bit of play-by-play. And I mean, that was another decision that I guess I made in my career, Bernie, is that I was never in a position, selfishly, if I was by myself, I would have moved to Bristol. But, I was never in a position with me and my kids and my kids' mom to just move to Bristol. That just was not in the cards.
By the way, Matt Berry, I think, is great. College football final, one of my favorite shows.
Regardless but I'm not saying anything about him. I mean, more power to him. Yeah, I enjoy him too. I listen to him all the time.
Yeah, that's shocking to me. Why wouldn't you want someone that has a little bit more of intimate knowledge about the programs doing a game when they're very good at doing the game? Like that's crazy to me that they would send their people down on that. Like that's almost offensive.
I reach out to we've got a contact with CBS that I'll reach out to every once in a while and say, hey, let me know if you need me. And he's always great and responds to me. And
I think it's also a knock on our sport, and that's what we try to tell people, that we're trying to get into bigger leagues. Like, hey, yeah, I've worked on ESPN. Look what I've done. Look how many times I've been on television. And I still think the people at ESPN, as many times as we've been on their network, still look at us as some sort of novelty, right? And that's what we're trying to explain to some of the pros, and trying to explain to people that as long as we keep acting in a certain way, we're always going to be treated a certain way.
Yeah.
And so, but it's tough. It's tough. I don't know. Yeah. I wanted your opinion on that. I wanted to know if you ran into a wall with that, or that's a situation like that. Like, you're a much better person than I am, but that would drive me crazy. If
it's frustrating. I mean, it's frustrating to me sometimes. Yeah, there's no doubt about it. However, I could change that. I mean, I could get in the car and drive up to Charlotte, and I mean, the ESPNU. Well,
the college stuff.
They're in Ballantyne. Yeah, that's the other thing. Is about 6 or 7 years ago, everyone who I knew either left or was let go. I mean, they've been there's been a lot of downsizing in ESPN over the years. So and a mentor of mine passed away, Dan Shoemaker. He got me a lot of jobs. Stas is gone. I mean, there's several guys that aren't there anymore. So, could I drive up to Charlotte and introduce myself, and do a better job of that? Yeah, maybe so. Is that going to give me the job? I don't know.
Yeah. Hopefully they watch this. Something tells me they won't.
I don't think so.
But hopefully they watch this, because that's a crime to me. And speaking of which, I think that we do have someone that kind of works in our staff. I think Jacob Schrantz, he just got to call that game in Nebraska, by the way, where they had the 92,000 people watching volleyball.
Oh, the volleyball! I saw. Yeah, I liked his social media posts. Yeah,
I think he's got an opportunity. I think he has to come out of his shell a little more. It's but I think that's something you learn.
Oh, he's just a kid. He's got a great voice.
I think you learn to be how it's done first, and then to be yourself after. Does that make any sense?
Yeah. I mean, when you start, they will tell you, if you need to imitate somebody, for lack of a better word, do it. But then you need to develop your own style. I mean, that's how a lot of guys do it. I mean, I went to University of Kansas. Everybody coming out of the University of Kansas sounded like Kevin Harlan. We all sounded like Kevin Harlan. But then as you start doing your own games, you start developing your own style and your own personality, and kind of move away from that. But there's actually one guy who I still know. I'll give you his name after we get off. You need to listen to him. He's the same age as I am. He still sounds just like Kevin Harlan. Sounds exactly like him.
That's what makes the greats, like Keith Jackson, my favorite announcer of all time. and Brent Musburger so great is they sound like, you know who it is 5 words in.
Yeah.
If less. Actually, Keith Jackson less, right?
Yeah.
Or you hear Brent Musburger's "You Are Looking Live" like that. Like that's, by the way, that's where I stole "These Bags Are Live." You know that, right?
I know it now. I didn't know that.
Yeah, that's where I stole. I completely stole that from Brent Musburger. I always thought that was a great lead-in.
Do you ever listen to Steve Zabin, the sports talk show host?
Yeah.
He was a national guy for many, many years and still is because of his podcast. But now he's on a local station in Milwaukee. I don't know what happened. He was with Yahoo when they had radio going. He was with some big sports networks, and now he's based in some radio station in Milwaukee. But you can still listen to him nationally with the podcast, like I said. But yeah, so he starts his football prediction segment every week with the "You Are Looking Live."
Does he really?
Brent Musburger thing, yeah.
Brent Musburger, like that was great. That was, to me, it was Brent Musburger's "You Are Looking Live," and then Keith Jackson just using words just using English vocabulary were the sounds of my youth. I loved listening to those two guys talk. Because remember, Keith Jackson used to do everything. He used to do baseball. Yeah. He used to do everything back in the day for ABC. So
another guy who you could tell instantly. Now, I grew up in Iowa, and so I watched the Cowboys every weekend because they were jammed down my throat. So that's why I'm still a Cowboys fan. Pat Summerall.
Oh, for sure.
When he came on, you knew
Sunday nights, man. Sunday afternoons, the 4:00 game, right on the East Coast. It was always the Cowboys, right? I mean, literally always the Cowboys in Charlotte. And hearing him sign off into the clock ticking from 60 minutes literally ruined my childhood because I knew school was really close.
Oh, that's sad.
You know what I mean? Like, oh,
yeah.
I'm only going to be up for a few more hours. Then I got to go to school again. Oh, by the way, we need to do a live BoarderLine in Iowa City. Did you see that the college tour has been announced? And I think they're going to Iowa City.
Oh my gosh, you guys are going to love it. Well, are you going
to? I'm not going. I'm not on it. I'm saying we should go. We should talk to the people in Iowa and see if we can get like a live thing, because I don't think our guys will show up till Friday. But it's Jake Brannon and Sean Latham are going to be on that tour.
Okay, good. Yeah, I saw Sean made the announcement on social media yesterday. That's awesome. He's going to be so good at that. He's going
to be so. Both of them are, but Sean's so good at engaging. Yeah. I'm not. Like, if I'm in a great mood and feel like talking to people, sure, but that's, once every 5th day. No,
it's perfect. Right? He is the perfect guy to do that. I mean, he's going to kill it. But yeah, Iowa City is it's the only thing to do. So
it's mid-October, man. Think about it. We should do a
Saturday night game.
I think so. I almost want to pull up that schedule.
Saturday night in Kinnick. They're probably playing Michigan. They're probably playing Ohio State. Something like that would be huge.
I don't think we got that good of a game. Let's see. Let's kill some more time while we're here, shall we?
Oh, I've got plenty to talk to you about.
Yeah, let's go.
We only have.
I got a few minutes left.
We still need to get to on, off, and in as well.
By the way, my bad. I think I somehow subconsciously and intentionally ruined this show this week. I had us going all over the place. I mean, my bad. I don't know why.
As always, I've got a long list of topics that we're going to get to. Not to mention your list that you sent me, and it's all just been sitting here.
Yeah, my bad. I guess I just wanted to talk. I don't know. My bad.
I like it. Well, I also wanted to follow up on a conversation that we kind of touched on during on, off, and in last week, and then ran out of time. That I wanted to spend some more time on, but looks like we're going to probably run out again. Is the player identification with jerseys and bags and all that kind of stuff. I think that's going to be a point of emphasis for the league next year, and I am so excited for that. So that when someone turns on TV, they'll instantly be able to tell who's playing.
Yeah.
Jay Rubin will be throwing black bags and wearing a black jersey. And and he'll be let's say it's Jay Rubin against Jamie Graham, right? And let's say Jay is on the top side of the board and Jamie's on that bottom side of the board as you're watching TV. So Jay will be wearing a black jersey, throwing black bags, and on the bug on the bottom, the background behind Jay Rubin will be black, and then you got Jamie who's throwing wearing a green jersey. and throw in, you know, greenish colored bags or something like that, and his name will be. So you instantly turn it on. It's just like when you turn on the Cowboys and the Steelers, right?
I'm with you.
You know who's who, and you can see jersey colors.
I am 100
manufacturers. You can sell more.
100% with you on this, but the caveat is, can we get our pros to bring the right jerseys? We're still fighting that battle. And this is what I'm talking about. Everyone needs to take things a little more serious and take it to the next level if they want to go with it and get there.
Yeah.
But, you know, this forgetting, I didn't know I needed my jersey. Oh, like, come on, man. Like, really? Like we're still having those issues. And I mean, I don't know. We're just going to have all, like let's say somebody forgets their jersey, right? Mm-hmm. We're just going to have a backup. And you know what? Believe it or not, it happens in college basketball all the time. I can't tell you that. And in football. We have backup jerseys. We just don't have their backup jerseys. Yeah. So we have random jerseys with our stuff all over it, right? Hey, we just don't have any of their sponsors or, you know, and all that kind of stuff. So it's
if a player for Ohio State, I mean, I literally do see this at the college level. If a player for Ohio State forgets his jersey on the trip to Iowa to play, you know, at Kinnick on a Saturday night, sorry. So
they don't bring their own jerseys, bro. They're not bringing their own jerseys. They've
got a team manager that brings all that stuff. But they always bring extra jerseys in case something happens. So it doesn't matter the level.
Can't have blood on them. You can't have all kinds of stuff nowadays. So they've always got a breakout jersey. Yeah, I'm with you, man.
To have extra ones.
I'm with you about the player identification.
I don't know for the players too.
I don't know if we're getting away with the colors because
I don't know how they're going to do it.
Because that's one thing I don't think Stacey wants to let go of because, you know, he is trying to market the league itself as well. Yeah. So I don't know. I mean, that's going to be a tough one. But I'm with you as far as identifying who these people are.
It's better for the sport. It's better for the players. Hey, I say it all the time. Don't be baseball. Don't be baseball and not make changes. Don't be baseball.
I hear you. I'm with you on it. Tough.
Are we ready for on, off, and in?
Yeah, under 3 minutes. Well, we got 8 minutes, right?
All right. So next week we'll try again to dive more into the player identification and jerseys and bags. Try for the second week in a row. All right, on, off, and in. You got yours this week?
Oh God, I do.
Sorry, mine. I can already tell you right now, you're probably going to hate mine. And we're already going to have to talk more about mine next week because I know it's going to create just a shit show.
I don't know, man. Mine are so bad, and mine are also kind of in the future. So how we even know, you know? But like my on the board. I'm going to start with on the board. I feel like I'm on the board with this. That I think a lot of the switching of partners that we have going on, and I've said this in the past, and like the grass isn't always greener, and I think there's something to be said for kind of players that have developed a chemistry and a partnership and a team, and you know they're teammates. You know they truly, and the ones that have developed it over time, I think means more, and I think it means more to the sport than this switching. I'm not a fan of this. Hey, we had a bad year, so we're switching. Like I get why people do it. I understand the money that comes in. I get all of it. I understand, but I don't know if chasing the short dollar works well for the long dollar. I'm just not sure because I've seen people that have left, you know, that have switched partners this season to people that I just don't see how it's going to work. Next year could be a great example of what you're talking about right now. Yeah, and that's why I say I'm on the board. I don't know if I'm on. Yep, I don't know if I'm in or if I don't know if I'm off. But I agree with you. But I think this you're right. This season is going to be kind of a you're right. Great example. Cautionary tale. Either way. Yeah. Either way. Yep. I like that. That's you're on the board. I think you could be right. We'll find out. Again, we're such a young sport. We don't know. Yeah. We're going to find out. I mean, we've seen it somewhat, but I think for some reason I feel like it was bigger this year. Maybe I'm wrong. I don't know. Yeah. Okay, you ready for this? I'm telling you, this is gonna create all kinds of problems. Yeah, and you know we only got like 4 minutes left, so maybe I shouldn't even do this. My on the board. I've been thinking about this for a while. I've been pushing back on it for a while. I'm not a big fan of it. I don't think that's why it's just my on the board and not in the hole. DPR. I don't understand
why we are using this as one of our major metrics in the sport.
Really?
No one in any other sport. Again, give me next week so we can dive into this a little bit more.
Okay.
This is Thanksgiving dinner. This is a lot to chew on. Yeah. It's going to make you full. No one uses this metric in other sports unless it's for gambling. We never talk about it on the broadcast. You know, the fact the Cowboys won 40-0, we're not talking about that next week. We don't know if it means anything or not. There is no differential per round, per inning, per quarter used in any other sport. It's just not a metric that people talk about. Is it used for gambling? Yeah. Is it used for fantasy football? Yeah. It's not talked about at the major sports level. It's misleading. There is no factor of strength of schedule in it whatsoever. I think we'd all agree there's a difference between the top-ranked pro and the 256th ranked pro.
Agree.
And there is no factor in it whatsoever. I mean, again, we don't have time to dive into this.
I agree with that for sure.
Give me college basketball. If we really want to talk DPR, give me quadrants. If you want to give me DPR for Jamie Graham, you give me DPR, but I want DPR, what his DPR is against the top 30, against the top 25, against the top 50, however you want to break it down. If you're just throwing DPR out there, the fact that the Cowboys beat the Giants 40-0 doesn't mean shit. Does it?
No,
you
not really.
can't tell me the Giants and the Cowboys go out this Sunday and play again and that the Cowboys are 40 points better.
No,
it doesn't mean anything.
It's
like plus minus in college, and again,
I think over a
it's
season,
like plus minus in college basketball.
We can argue this.
Meaningless.
It's not meaningless, but we'll argue this
plus
in
minus
the future.
in college basketball is
plus minus for a play. That's more of a player stat, individual stat.
But it's not if you're substituted at the same time. Trust me, the plus minus drives college basketball coaches through the roof, and it should.
They're the ones that started it.
No, it's the metrics people behind it who started it. Trust me.
But certain coaches adopted. But now I'm with you. We'll talk about that more. I think there is a way that it's very valuable. But I get what you're saying.
Just because you have a high or a really good DPR doesn't mean that you're a dirty player. Doesn't mean that you're a carpetbag player. Doesn't mean that you're a great player. Maybe it means that you played against some lesser competition.
I'm with you.
So
I'm with you on that part.
Give me a quad 1 DPR for lack of a better term.
I'm with you. All right. Well, we're definitely talking about that because I think there's a lot to dive into there, and I think that there's levels of that conversation that I'm going to have a different opinion on. But my off the board, I thought when Jamie switched partners going to Frank, I didn't see it, and I was way off the board. And I'm not going to tell you some of the people that I thought he would go to, but I was way off the board on that. I did not see that. Now, the more I think about it, I kind of like it in the fact that they're very comfortable with each other. But I'm way off the board in the fact that I thought Jamie, speaking of quadrants, would have picked someone from his own level. And not to say anything bad about Frank Modlin. I love Frank Modlin. He always finds a way to be there at the end, and maybe that was the driving factor in his choice. I just don't know if he's at that level anymore where Jamie exists. And so that I'm off the board. I did not see that as the partner choice at all. I was way off.
All right, and we're going to have to leave it here. We'll have to pick it up next week. I'll give you my off because mine's quick. I'm just off on Texas. I mean,
wow,
whether it's cornhole or whether it's college football or whether it's the NFL, I'm off. I mean, Eddie and Caleb, I never once picked them, and all they did was win everything, basically, this year.
Longhorns look good, man.
Yeah, Texas. I wouldn't have picked Texas against Alabama. It just seemed like a big game that Texas doesn't win, or not in the last 10 years, and they did. And the Cowboys, I mean, as much as they're my team, and I did bet on them to win at I think they were -3, something like that. I mean, 40-0. I thought we'd struggle to score points. We put up 40. I knew the defense is good. I didn't think we were scoring 40 points. So I was off.
That's a great one. By the way, my in the hole, we've got a little bit of time. I'm not going to talk about it. I knew North Carolina would struggle with App State. Knew it. Saw the point spread at 19.5. And if I had money, I would have bet people I know on the fact that App would have covered that 19.5. I would have bet other people's lives on it, including my own. No way were they willing to A, handle success, and B, that was going to be a close game regardless. No way. Yeah.
I was busy with my game. When I saw that final come across, I was like, oh my God, Bernie's got to be just dying right now.
Oh, you kidding me? You kidding me? I almost destroyed this entire place during that game.
The new apartment now has holes in the wall.
It's
with your
damaged.
DNA all over it. All right, we got to go.
All right.
Hey, brother, good to see you.
You too, buddy.
All right, have a good weekend. We'll talk to you later. Bye, everybody.